So despite having the first Doom on my first ever computer, I never actually got to play it because I had the fear of God put in me when it came to first-person shooters as a kid. It was probably because my first game of that genre was House of the Dead 2 on the Dreamcast, which is a horror FPS game, and I didn't get over it until the first time I played Counter-Strike 1.6. I heard a ton of people praising Doom 2016, and I know it's one of the favorite franchises in the gaming world, yet I have never laid a finger on it. Thanks to the ton of hype behind Doom Eternal, I finally got around to check it out, and it definitely was a unique experience. The entire premise of the game is something I have only seen somewhat in parts of BioShock Infinite, but not to the extent you have it in Doom. In Doom you play a godly being feared by any demon out there. You are their boss fights rather than them being your challenge. You are an unrelenting one-man army capable of unmeasurable destruction to the enemy, no matter how outgunned you are or outnumbered. Knowing that this is the premise for the game and it being an arcade shooter, I thought, oh, this is pretty much every single Call of Duty campaign I have ever played since Modern Warfare 2 up until Call of Duty World War 2, and boy was I wrong. While being an arcade shooter just like Call of Duty, Doom is a completely different game. If you take a look at the previous Call of Duties, it's filled with just ridiculous action pieces one after the other, with no real clever level design and very linear way of playing the game. Doom, however, gives you all that action and badass feeling that you would expect of an arcade shooter, but you feel like you've earned it. While in the latest Call of Duty Modern Warfare Spec Op modes, the enemy respawn endlessly out of nowhere for no good reason, just so you'll have constant action, despite it being a very unnecessary and annoying experience that ruined the entire game mode for me. If you look at Doom, however, they actually make this infinite respawning mechanic not only work, but necessary for your success if you're a decent player. Sometimes when you're low on health and ammo and you feel overwhelmed, you might actually get cornered and die because of the endless amount of demons surrounding you constantly spawning. Once you get the hang of the game though, you understand that they are actually there for you to chain their kills. You're supposed to flamethrow those minion demons, then glory kill them so you get all the HP and armor drops that you need to replenish, or in a case of low ammo, just chainsaw them so you have an ammo refill. It took me a while to get there because I was new to the series, but you need to chain those kills and combo them. And a lot of new players don't understand it because I've seen a ton of complaints already online for having no ammo all the time, which is the case when you're not using one of the game mechanics, which is the chainsaw, the right way. So let's segue into the game mechanic part of the game now, which was an overwhelming experience. There are a ton of mechanics in the game that seemed too much at first for me, and I didn't use a lot of them until I got further into the game. I never used the frag grenade or ice grenade until the middle part of the game, and very rarely did I put my chainsaw to work in the early parts, even when I was low on ammo. Not only that there are a ton of game mechanics, but there are 4 different skill trees in the form of weapon modifications, health, ammo and armor capacity upgrades that give certain perks, a suit upgrade that give you some of the other perks in the game, and the runes which you unlock by finding around the levels of the game. Being new to the series, it was very overwhelming and confusing, and it took me a while to put together. I was actually thinking that those mechanics and skill trees are the bad part of the game when I started playing it. But once you progress through the game and understand it, they all mesh together pretty well and create a great synergy with each other. Not only that, but they also complement different options of game styles and ways of engaging the game, which I loved. The game does a very good job of slowly introducing you to the new weapons and abilities you have, as well as the enemies you will face. A very hard, almost boss-like character for you in the first levels will now spawn twice in the next level, making it still challenging after you progressed and became more experienced with the game. And the game doesn't hold your hand at all. While a map and a quest marker exist in the game, you still need to find the hidden switch or the pathway that will let you progress through the level, and there isn't some weird hint mechanic forced through odd and repeated game dialogue that you have in other games. If you take apart each weapon or mechanic in the game, the Slayer is a very weak character despite what the story tells you. And that would be the case if you put this game in the hands of a casual player who has no experience with the series. I'm not saying you have to be le epic gamer, but you need prior gaming knowledge or some sort of explanation to understand what the game is about, because if you don't use your abilities and combo your kills, you're not a godly Slayer to be feared. You need to use your chainsaw to gather ammo, your flamethrower on the enemies when they are clumped together, and then frag them for the AoE damage, or just shoot them until they flash for a glory kill, so you can replenish the armor from the flamethrower and the HP from the glory kill. Once you're good to go in terms of ammo, HP and armor, you go back to slaying the bigger and harder to kill demons. Even though there's a lot of rinse and repeat action in this game, it's very rewarding. Now, in terms of the story, there was a lot of jargon, possible Easter eggs or references that I completely missed since I'm a new player to the series. But this is not really a story-based experience. At least it wasn't for me. While prior knowledge might be needed for you to get the full picture, you can slowly assemble it by collecting codex pages scattered all over the campaign. Being a lazy gamer that I am, I never bothered to read any of them, but I still appreciate them being a part of the game. The campaign took me about 12 hours to finish while playing it semi-non-linearly on the second difficulty. An experienced player, in my opinion, would probably finish it in 10 hours under the same difficulty if you won't deviate from the main path. I appreciate the game not being a yellow brick road with a ton of hidden rooms containing power-ups, collectibles and other things you need to gather in order to make the Slayer even more of a beast, but you don't need those for the game if you want to skip them. I didn't collect all the Slayer keys to unlock the weapon you have in the Doom Fortress. I only collected batteries and used them for health and armor upgrades or the suit points. But again, I appreciate them putting it in the game for completionists who have a ton of things to do in this game. They can collect toys, cheats that you can use later on when you replay the game, soundtracks, unlockables, and even challenges. In Doom Eternal you also have a multiplayer experience that I barely touched, and that's why it's not a part of the review for me, because multiplayer modes in any game needs more time to dive into, finding any exploits you have or game-breaking mechanics that would ruin the experience. I look at the game's multiplayer mode as a bonus and a cherry on top, rather than its selling point. If you don't know, the multiplayer mode of Doom lets you play as the Slayer or several other demons against the Slayer. Multiplayer is probably one of the hardest thing to create in a game and hardest thing to balance if you want to make a fun experience that every player can enjoy while rewarding the good players without burying the new unexperienced ones. Now it's a very special, unique sort of challenge when you have to import a godly character from the campaign into the multiplayer while keeping it balanced, while not taking anything out of him that makes him the Slayer. As far as customization goes, the game offers several skins for the Slayer, the weapons and even the demons, which is great in my opinion, but again, I didn't dive into it too much, so it's a bonus as well for me, just like the multiplayer experience, where you use most of those skins. So if you ask me about the final verdict for the game, I would tell you it's a solid 9 out of 10. There's nothing bad that I can say about the game other than the story could have been better and a bit more exposition was needed for the newer players, but otherwise I love it. You would get at least 10 hours worth of single player experience that would be much longer than that if you want to complete everything in the game. The game was definitely a refreshing experience for me because I thought that FPS games can make you feel like a badass with shooting galleries and ridiculous action sequences only, without any sense of accomplishment. Doom, however, is completely the opposite way. Instead of zoning out and going through the waves to get through the story, you're actively chaining kills in a smart way so you can keep the adrenaline train going and combo your way into killing the stronger demons. This game is very gory in a good way that's not cheap, and even though it's obviously not aimed at kids, the only violence it glorifies is against demons, which is a very controversial hill that I'm willing to die on. There's also plenty of humorous tidbits along the storylines, like the hologram referring to the Slayer as mortally challenged, which cracked me up the first time I've heard it. I also heard that satire is not foreign to Doom, so you can expect it in this game as well, but it's not as heavy as games like GTA 5, where almost everything is parodied or satire. I highly recommend this game if you want a high adrenaline, challenging single-player experience that empowers the player, and while linear in its campaign, you can use many different playstyles to get through the game, and it has a ton of replayability value because of it. Thank you guys for watching the video. I would appreciate it if you drop a like on this video, share it around. I would also love to see your opinions on the game in the comment section below. If you liked it, if you played it, or if you haven't, and if you even played the previous installments of the game and got to the same conclusion as I did. You can also support the channel through Patreon, cause making those videos ain't easy at all. Any support is greatly appreciated, and it will allow me to make better and even more frequent content for you guys. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one.